Hello, this is Becky Thomas Iyer, and this is podcast number 9. And this podcast is about keeping the faith even when you don't seem to be getting any answers to your prayers or getting the answers that you want or feel that you deserve. I'm really excited about this podcast, but before we get started, I just wanted to say that since I got married for the first time almost 5 months ago, I have had a lot of firsts. I was so used to doing everything by myself. I didn't know any different. I cleaned, did yard work, carried my own suitcase, folded my own laundry, registered my car each year, and all the other things you do just to maintain a house and a life. Well, Daryl is amazing, and he has insisted on doing every single one of these things and more, and even races me to do them before I can get to them. Each time he does something that I'm used to doing myself, I'm quick to say, Daryl, this is another first. I have never had such and such done for me before. Well, this past weekend, I had another first. I've always enjoyed the opportunities I've had to speak to audiences. And so I was asked to speak here in Utah, and I asked them if Daryl could join me, especially since the topic was about Holland, and Daryl is learning to not only navigate, but find the beauty of Holland as well. Well, they were excited and said yes. So Daryl and I had the chance to speak together for the first time. What a treat that was. It was just one of those many firsts that I have come to appreciate. And today's another first, my first Father's Day with a husband who happens to be an amazing father. You know, I have to say, I think the longer you go without, whether it be without your car, your spouse, or your job, or your parents, whatever it is, you come to appreciate them more and more. I appreciate Daryl so much. I have never had so much help and concern and interest in my life, and it's been amazing. And this leads me into the podcast for today. Okay. So I am going to share my thoughts of how to cope and what we can do when we pray and don't seem to get answers to our prayers or don't get the answers that we so desperately desire. I prayed for the same thing for 30 years. So I learned a few things about how to deal with this waiting period and having the tenacity to keep going and keep believing even when we don't think we are getting answers. So going back to the Holland analogy, or the unexpected life, I could be wrong, but it seems that the people in Holland, those whose lives have taken some very unexpected turns, spend a lot more time on their knees than those in Italy or those living the life they hoped and dreamed for. Those in Holland are praying to make sense of why they lost a child, why they are still single when they would really like to be married, or why they haven't been able to have kids of their own, or why they have to deal with so much pain and suffering before and after their divorce, or pray for answers on how to put the pieces back together in their estranged marriage, or how to deal with their physical or mental challenges, regardless what it is. They are often left wanting and searching for answers and spend a good deal of their time questioning and praying. I spent 30 years praying for answers. That is a long time to pray for something that you genuinely long for. And I am sure there are those of you who have prayed longer than that and still might be praying for certain answers or desires of your heart. And yet, looking back, honestly, I wouldn't trade those 30 years for anything in the world. It was during that time of waiting, of praying, of struggling to understand and find answers that I was humbled, inspired, strengthened, comforted, instructed, began to appreciate even the simplest of gestures or times of inclusion by others, and so much more. Looking back, it was an amazing 30 years, and I am so grateful for it. In fact, there was so much value during those 30 years that when I didn't get what I wanted, that I have secretly wished the same for others. Now that might sound a little twisted, but there have been times when I found out that someone was up against a huge challenge and struggling for answers to their prayers, and have kind of hoped that they didn't get them. Not because I didn't want them to have their wants and the wishes of their heart, but because I wanted them to come to Holland and have the amazing experiences I was having. I wanted them to come here and feel what it's like to totally trust in the Lord, to totally let go, to be stripped of pride, and to really have this raw experience of being so vulnerable. Though it seems daunting if you haven't gone through it, once you have, it's amazing. I want everyone to experience the kind of joy and connection to things that are eternal that happens here in Holland. However, I know all too well that when you want something so bad, like the healing of a child, the landing of a job, the mending of a relationship, the longing for a child, the last thing on your mind is finding the beauty of Holland. I certainly wasn't thinking of all the lessons I would learn in Holland when I was desperately praying to find my husband, so I get it. What I would like to do today is to share some things that I learned so that during those 5, 10, or 30 plus years that you are waiting upon the Lord, you have some coping skills that can help you to be patient and enjoy the journey and hopefully give you new perspective. All right, so the first thing is this, and I know we've all been reminded of this over and over, but it literally saved my life and kept me from becoming bitter and negative during those 30 years of waiting. I came across this quote: "Gratitude turns what we have into enough." That might be the truest statement ever made. Gratitude turns whatever we have into enough. I have always valued the quality of being gracious, but I realized whenever I was upset because of what I didn't have, I was obviously lacking gratitude for what I did have. C.S. Lewis called this the given good versus the expected good. We all have good that we've been given from God, every single one of us. It could be our health, our family, our kids, our friends, our job, our opportunities, any number of things. And then we have the expected good, the good that we want or feel we deserve. It too is good. And so we often don't feel there's anything wrong with the expected good because it's good. However, C.S. Lewis says, if we focus on the expected good, we will never see or appreciate the given good. What this means is that if you want 3 kids and are only able to have 1, gratitude in the given good says, I am grateful for the one I have. Or if you wanted to own a home by now, but you live in an apartment or in your parents' basement, gratitude, or the given good, says, I'm just grateful to have a roof over my head. Or if you have severe headaches or health problems, gratitude, or the given good, says, at least I can walk, or at least I have family who loves me. If you want a second car in your family, gratitude, or the given good, says at least we have one. Or if we don't have a car at all, gratitude says I'm grateful to have legs to walk. If we want a higher paying job, gratitude, or the given good, says I am grateful for the job I have. In my case, I wanted to be married and have a family of my own. That was the expected good that I wanted for so long and even felt I deserved. But gratitude, or the given good, said, at least I have a good job, wonderful parents, and great friends. Gratitude takes what you have and turns it into enough. The moment you have real gratitude, you are full of love and appreciation, and this waiting period is not nearly as painful. In fact, living in gratitude for the given good gives you a total paradigm shift and changes everything. The moment we are hurt or upset or envious for what we don't have, then we're lacking gratitude. We just made our lives a lot harder. So focusing on what we do have, the given good, is one of the keys to not only getting through the hard times when we are waiting upon the Lord, but it is also the key to happiness. I can promise you that. Gratitude is a powerful coping skill. A great example of this is a friend of mine named Candace. Several years ago, I used to teach Candace's kids to swim. She had 2 boys at the time, and so each summer I would see her and we'd catch up. And then one summer came and she didn't bring her kids for swimming lessons. I didn't think too much of it, but then the next summer she returned. And I said, "Candace, I missed you last summer. How are you doing?" And with a big smile on her face, Candace said, "Becky, we were so blessed to have another little boy, and we were fortunate to have him for 2 hours of his life." It was amazing. Candace told me about how when she was pregnant with this 3rd little boy named Maverick, that she was told that the baby would not survive. And the doctor said, it might pass while it's in your tummy, or it might pass right after it is born. And he did. He lived for 2 hours. She took what she had and turned it into enough. In fact, when I texted Candace the other day to ask her if I can use her name for this podcast, she says, "Guess what, Becky?" She says, "We just had a surprise." She says, "I'm pregnant again." Now, her youngest is 6 now, and they were done having kids. So you can imagine how surprised she was. She says, "It was a surprise at the beginning, but now we are so excited." The expected good is that Candace was done having kids. The given good is that she has one more boy coming along into their family. She is such a good example of gratitude, taking what you have and turning it into enough. So as we focus on the given good and not the expected good, we will be so much happier and deal with this waiting period so much better. The second thing is this. Years ago, David Bednar told the story of a man who took his truck to the mountains to cut some firewood for his family. It was snowing as he drove his truck into the wooded area, and as he continued to inch forward, his tires eventually got stuck in the deep snow. He tried and couldn't get out. Well, instead of just sitting there, he decided to cut the wood and fill up the back of his truck. Then he decided to make one more attempt to drive his truck out of the snow. Now, with the weight of the wood, his truck had enough traction to move, and he was able to drive the truck out of the forest. The weight in the back of his truck from all the trees he'd cut down provided the traction he needed to move forward. I can't tell you all the times when I came across a difficult situation, and I realized that the weight of my previous challenges, which strengthened and taught me, served as traction for me to get through those harder times. Being single in my 30s taught me lessons that helped me to be single in my 40s. Or challenges at work helped me to handle myself better when new challenges arrived. Had I not gone through the previous challenges and learned from them, I would not have been able to deal with my new challenges. The hard times we have in our lives provide traction. They provide the weight needed to ground us so that we can move forward. Does this make sense? These hard times of waiting or praying and struggling will serve you well throughout your life. Trust me on this. Having gone through so much waiting and trusting and being faithful, even when my prayers were not answered the way I would have liked, gave me the ability to deal with challenges or unanswered prayers that came later. The previous challenges grew character and perspective that I for sure needed later on in life. So appreciate the traction you're getting. It will serve you well and ground you in such a way that you'll be able to not only help others, but move through any terrain that you might be asked to travel. If we look at it as adding traction to our lives, we will see this challenge and waiting period as a blessing, not a curse. I know this sounds simple, and at the time, the weight of the load might be overwhelming, but I promise you, it will serve you well later in life if you will continue to move forward. Okay, here's another paradigm shift. I remember when I was in the middle of this 30-year waiting period, and frustrated that my friends were married and raising a family, when a leader gave me some great advice. He said, "Becky, make time your friend, not your enemy." Time had become my enemy. I knew my biological clock was ticking and life was slipping by, and I felt like every day was Groundhog Day. Nothing was changing. I was feeling useless and without purpose. And then I literally decided to make time my friend and use my time to be productive, to make a difference, to live life with purpose, as I mentioned in a previous podcast. I decided to fill my days with meaning and intention. I made time my friend. Instead of counting the days I was still single, or in your case, counting the days that you can bear a child, or that you're waiting for your husband to change, or your child to come back to the family, or to finally land a job. Make time your friend and give purpose to your days. It'll make all the difference. Make time your friend. Okay. Lastly, and maybe the most important, remember, God is perfect, and therefore we can have perfect faith in Him. And having perfect faith in Him is having faith in His timing. The two are inseparable. We cannot have faith in God and then question His timing. I have to say, I am not a patient person. I want things to get done sooner than later, and people have often wondered how with my personality I was so patient in finding the right guy. I would point it back to this one principle. God is perfect, and if He wasn't, I would not have been so patient, but I knew He was. And so one thing I could do was have perfect faith in Him and His timing. If I didn't know this, I could never have kept the faith and patience that I did when I was not getting the answers that I wanted during those 30 years of asking. Understanding and believing that God is perfect, and therefore we can count on His perfect timing, can and will make all the difference in your lives. I promise you that. Well, I hope this helped in some way. I have had an incredible journey, one that taught me so much and continues to teach me. I am just trying to share what I've learned with you, hoping it can help in some way. I don't pretend to know all the answers. I am just hoping that these ideas are conversation starters and can be points of reference. I'm grateful to all those who taught me while I was searching for answers and trying to make sense of it all. We're all here just trying to lift and help each other. I appreciate you who are concerned with self-improvement. I told Daryl, if I did a backflip off the roof, I could get millions of views, but not that many people are into self-improvement. And so it's a different audience, and I appreciate the connection with you as we all navigate through Holland together. Well, I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening. If you haven't listened to the others, please start from the beginning so you know where I'm coming from. And feel free to email me at bthomas2@prodigy.net if you have any questions or any suggestions for a podcast. Have a great day and take care. Thanks so much.